Hello, we are Nerds of the West, and we have just played a few rounds of 60-second cocktail, so we are ready now to give you our thoughts on it. We have played it a few times outside of this as well. We do have to say that this stream has been sponsored by the folks at Party Meeple, so thank you very much to them. We do try and remain as honest and transparent as possible. So without further ado, we the people that are going to be telling you our thoughts. My name is Tom. We have a Jimmy.
Hello.
We have a Lachlan.
Hello.
We have a Kai.
Howdy.
Kai, what is going on in 60-second cocktail?
60-second cocktail is a bluffing bidding game where the four of us are playing bartenders trying to make some cocktails in under 60 seconds. To start the game, everybody plays one of these four cards face down in front of them. Then, starting with the leading player, you have the choice of either playing more cards into your pile or bidding how many cards you think you can flip at the whole table without exceeding 60 seconds to make a cocktail. But your cocktail also has to have alcohol in it, otherwise it's a mocktail, and that's not what this bar's all about. So after bidding and getting the highest bid for a number of cards flipped, you have to put your money where your mouth is, flip some cards, and see if you made a successful cocktail in under 60 seconds to make tips, or if you failed, bust, and get your tips taken off of you by your evil boss and potentially get relegated to washing dishes. Last man standing or most tips at the end of the game wins.
So, we're going to give you our thoughts to see if this game might be right for you. It might be something you want to play. And at the end, we're going to rank it on our Nerds of the West ranking list. You can catch that on our website, nerdsofthewest.com.au, to see every game that we played this year. At the end of the year, we will re-rank the whole list. Everyone at Nerds will vote on their games. We'll re-rank everything and have our best game of 2023. So, 60-second cocktail. How did you guys feel playing this? Was this a fun game with interesting choices for the table?
Yes. It was. It sure was. I was like...
Get the basics out of the way first.
Simple answer, yes it was.
Short answer, yes.
Because short answer, yes. Long answer was, I played you. I played you all.
I guess that's the thing.
Let's not hear from Lachlan anymore.
What were the choices like when you actually started the game versus how did the game evolve, and was that good?
It's interesting you put it like that. So the start of the game is my favorite part of the game, when everyone's on an even playing field and anything can happen. When there is just as much value in placing a bid yourself and trying to win tips as there is in trying to make others overbid and bust, or lay your cards out in such a way to make your opponents bust. As the game progresses, if someone gets a slight lead and the pool of available tips starts to get too low for you to actually exceed theirs, you start having to try to make them bust. And all they have to do is not bid, and they win. That's that's unfortunately the bit of the game where it falls down for me, is towards the end, where, just for example, Lachlan had I think five or six tips, where the rest of us only had two, and there was only one or two left in the center. We couldn't beat you.
Yeah.
All you had to do was pass on every bid until we ourselves either busted or exhausted the tips to end the game.
But the choices to get to that point were so interesting to me. Like, to get to those 3 or 4 coins ahead, you had to win maybe 1 or 2 or 3 drinks and get the double points for winning if you get a drink with double ice in it, which meant that everyone was super, not on edge, but the strategic choice of, do you try and get people's coins low at the start? Do you try and go for wins at the start? Like, always having those choices is what was interesting to me.
Yeah. Well, being in that position, it was a little bit different to obviously you guys, because you guys were trying to climb the hill and I was already on the hill.
Kicking us back down.
You know, we all started somewhere, and I got the luck of the draw of getting the 2 ice, which then jumped me 2 steps up as opposed to the 1 step up. But instead, I could have sat on top of my hill and just watched you guys at the bottom, or I could have tried and played a bit more risky, and I had a bit more freedom of movement in what I wanted. I wasn't running on the seat of my pants to be like the stressful game that it is when you're only got 1 coin left, or you're, this close to elimination. Very different style of play, which was enjoyable for me, because I could play risky and I could play around you guys, which also worked in my favor, which just set me in. Like, I wasn't trying to I could risk it and then eliminate you guys and win the whole kitty, or I could lose what I already had.
I do think that part of that as well is the way that we play a lot of games, obviously. Welcome to our channel. So I think part of that is us trying to math out like the most efficient play and the best play out of it. Whereas this isn't necessarily the game for that environment. This is it comes in a tiny little box that you can stick in your pocket and take to a party, and bam, whip it out. Like it's not necessarily a game to sit and like analysis paralysis and crunch every turn to its extremist.
Oh yeah.
I think if you've got a few, sorry, I didn't mean to go over you.
No.
If you've got a few drinks on board as well, like, because it is a drinking, like it's a drinking game.
The game goes to the point of giving you recipes for cocktails for the different booze that comes in the game, which is
I think
the intention is there.
It adds to the experience of like, you're going to not be making the most efficient decision potentially because you are a bit, you've got something in the system that might be influencing.
Well, like even though I was on the hill, I was still playing the game because it is a short, sweet game. Yes. That there's no point in me sitting there and not playing for the sake of being like, well, I've won at this point, because it's like we might as well play, get my enjoyment out of it, and then we can move on to another round and reset the field.
You haven't necessarily won. It's just like you've 90% won if you get into that position. It's just there are so many different ways you can get to that position by either, like you guys joked about me putting my gin first all the time, but I felt like that was a good way to play. Put the gin out first. If someone starts bidding early, I know that I have the gin to make the cocktail, or I can then go, cool, we're going around a bit. I can either add some extra cards to get the time up if someone flips my cards, or go with the ice and the tonic to have those lower number cards so that someone either trusts me more or I can flip those cards. Like there are just all these little choices throughout the game, which I think because we played it for a good hour and a half, 2 hours, we played through 3 or 4 rounds, the game starts to get a bit samey. As a game to just bring out as a party game, as a filler game, I hate to make comparisons to game, but you kind of have to with this one. I prefer this to Skull.
Interesting.
I agree, actually. That was, again, I don't like making direct comparisons, but they make the direct comparison in the rulebook to Skull, so we get a pass. I prefer this to Skull as well because there is more to think about. In Skull, it's just, you have either...
Win or lose.
Win or lose. There is no... Like, there is, you either don't pick a Skull or you do. That's it. There is more to it. There's more thinking about the order that you play things in.
Skull.
The order that everybody else has played things in.
Yeah, Skull leads to, like, big numbers where you can see, all right, have people gone for the win? Can I get 7 or 8 without a win or without a loss? This goes, cool, what order have people played things in? That becomes far more important. Yeah. And then Skull can have the same runaway leader problem, but the game is totally over. There is a possibility that everyone else at the table has lost their Skull and the game is won. Because at that point, because you are the person who takes the risk, you then take the lead and do the same thing again, you'll automatically win the game. It's unlikely, but it can happen in Skull. That play shifts to the left. The next person has the lead. It might not come back around to you. You don't have those options to force the game. And so there are more choices.
Yeah, that's it. Trying to force an end to a round is really tricky too, because multiple times when Lachlan had that lead, if he was playing to win, he wouldn't have to take a bid. So he was like, pass. Like that. Once again, if you have the alcohol on board, or you're not thinking clear, you're excited in the moment, then they might take a bid. Or if you can force their hand before it's too late, so they take a. Like knowing, as you said, placing the cards in the right order. You don't know how the round's going to go. You don't know who's going to start the bidding. Like,
I like
when it was sorry.
No, I like the fact that you could pick, like the order could make such a huge difference. Like, trying to play my low value cards first so that I feel like I can be at a bit a higher number versus playing my higher ones first, or guaranteeing that I've got the alcohol. Like. I like it.
Well, when it was the 3-player rounds, sorry to mean to go over here, but the 3-player rounds, it was just like, okay, well, 3 straight away. It's like, well, has everyone played alcohol or have they not? Have people bluffed?
It's a fast round, but it was a very much gamble, and it went either way multiple times. And then again, when you do finally make the bid, and you've got to make 5 or 6, and you're then hand picking your cards to try and dodge them, I had the most success out of everyone, whereas you guys busted so often that it was very difficult for you guys. But that's just playing the game. That is the game.
So, gameplay itself, pretty solid. We're fans. Artwork. How do you guys feel about the backs of the cards, the fronts of the cards, the box, the components? This is a locally produced indie publisher, so it is worth considering. The art's inoffensive. It's pretty basic. I don't hate it, but...
I mean, it does its job, and I like the fact that they used funny names for their alcohol.
Yeah. What is it? Frisky, Run, Sin, and
Handy, I think? Yeah, Handy.
Handy.
Yeah, I think, like, because it is a quick game, you don't need to invest, like, to have sophisticated art. I think it does its job, yeah.
Yep.
I could definitely see a second edition with like much prettier art if the publisher got to that point where it was super successful.
Yep.
But it is not a problem for me.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, it's not a game with art as a standout, but as soon as you start playing, the art fades into the background and isn't what you're concerned about anyway. So it does its job. I have no
complaints.
No complaints, except I've just noticed that ice isn't capitalized and the others are. But that's I'm very much a nitpick.
They're all different fonts, so.
But I think it's functional. I just noticed they all have different borders, which is
I didn't notice that until just now.
Okay.
There are little details, which is nice. So
square cards are interesting.
With all that in mind, where would you rank it on our Nerds of the West ranking list? This is how we rank games, not based on if one game is necessarily better than another, because you can't compare apples to oranges or gin to whiskey. But what would you prefer to play if given the opportunity? I always struggle to rate quick games.
Party games are so hard.
Yeah, you can break them out at any time, but you wouldn't want to break them out all the time. This, I think, is a great game to go, hey, we have 15 minutes, we have a moment, but I would play... I was about to say Steam Up and Junarakis over this, but those are both, like, Junarakis is such a heavy game. I think I'd play Mysterium Park over this. I think if I had a small group of people and wanted to show them an interesting game, Mysterium Park is that little bit better. Curses and Covens feels similar in the way that this does, where it's a simple, quick card game. That just ekes that out for me because that's a simple, quick card game that is also 1v many, which is a tough thing to pull off, and that game does it. So for me, it sits right in that middle of the table. Easy to bring out, great game, just not what I would always play, which is not what this game is trying to be, which is totally okay.
See, I haven't played a lot of these games on this board, but like the most recent one that I can like the Where Aurum is, which we played literally a few weeks ago, so it's still fresh for me. I'd actually probably put it around there for me, because even if you've got people who don't play board games who are just over for a few drinks, this is a quick and easy game to set up. Like that's huge for people that don't play games.
It's quick, simple. Whip it out, and you could be sitting around at your backyard glass table.
Yeah, exactly. That's what sells it to me, is like that you can easily pump out a few games. You're not expecting it to go for hours, but you might, and then
I think the speed is definitely a plus. It's one of those good games that is good to travel with, good to take to parties, things like that, where you're not expecting everyone to sit down and focus for hours.
I reckon you could play a round in 60 seconds.
I reckon you could. I think you could.
I think for me, I would actually put it above Hidden Leaders. It's a good balance of fast and just that little bit more, more to think about than some other games that are as quick.
Yep.
Lachlan?
Fair point. I think I'd put it below Hidden Leaders. But I did really enjoy it, and I played a very different game to what you guys did. And got to experiment a little bit more. And I did enjoy the card counting and just the extra mechanics it has over Skull that separates it, where there is just that extra layer of elements. I think maybe if there was maybe a few more cards so that your rounds would go for a little bit longer, but then that's another rebalancing of it, which would be hard because it is quite balanced at the moment. But yeah, Did really enjoy it.
Well, that is our thoughts on 60 Second Cocktail. As we said, this is an indie game, so you might struggle to find it in stores, but we will say it's available on Party Meeple's website, and if you're in Australia, it has free shipping. We have been Nerds of the West. Thank you so much to Party Meeple for sponsoring our stream. We do this every week, twitch.tv/Nerds of the West. My name is Tom. We have a Kai.
Yo.
We have a Lachlan.
Cheers.
We have a Jimmy.
Hello.
And we will catch you next time.